thank you. And thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here today. As Tetsuro said, I worked with Jenny on this project as a director dramaturg. And just before I pass it to Jenny, just an acknowledgement that Jenny's piece is an autobiographical piece. And we know that on our own journeys, there are always moments of wonderful moments and moments of challenge. And the piece that Jenny's going to share with you today contains some moments of challenge. And so we just wanted you to know that up front and know that we are here to hold space with you as you experience Jenny's story today. And I'm going to pass it on to her so she can talk more about it. So thank you.
Oh, and just before we do, Chris, you'll give us a moment whereby, if for those of us in gallery view, we'll be able to view Jenny properly. Or are we all seeing Jenny full screen now? Is that right?
I just spotlighted Jenny. Jenny, you're in the spotlight.
Yeah, so I'm spotlighted to me. Is that good for everyone else?
Yeah, you're full screen with me, Jenny.
Okay, so. Great. So yeah, so delighted to be here, and thank you to all of you for showing up wherever you may be, whatever time you may be at. I'm here in Dublin in Ireland, and it is 9 p.m. here. And I'm really delighted that two of my colleagues from Ireland are on the call as well. So maybe Jennifer Webster and Martha Knight, if you want to give a little wave. Oh, I guess, yeah, they may not be visible now, but look for them. Look for them after. Really glad that they could join. So as Joe said, we're going to share about 15 minutes of the play Enthroned with you, of some different parts of the play Enthroned. And then we're going to leave a little time for your feelings and your reactions. We'd love to hear those. And then we're going to open into a more general discussion between Joe and myself, and hopefully everyone, about what the process of creation has been. We also thought it might be useful for you to have a little context on the play. So the play was premiered at a festival called First Fortnight in Dublin. First Fortnight's an arts and mental health festival. So we played in the grounds of a residential mental health center, and the audience were members of the general public, but also anyone who was resident in the center and wanted to come and see the performance. We then went to the New York International Fringe Festival, so just around the corner from Joe, at NYU. And then we came back to Dublin. And when we came back to Dublin, that was for the Solo Sirens Festival. And I might say more about that in the discussion, because Enthroned really spawned Solo Sirens to some degree. And Martha and Jen are my collaborators on Solo Sirens. After that, we went back to First Fortnight. It was First Fortnight's 10th anniversary, and they were programming works that had happened before again. And that was in January 2021. So it was a particular type of performance. It was filmed and we presented online. So this is a story that has been told before. In 2016, and for 6,000 years before that. It's a story that was told before Me Too, and in a Dublin where you could still find a flat. Before Donald Trump was elected, and the pendulum swung back. It's the story of princesses, for they are born each day, not the kind the world identifies as such, but the true ones, the queens in waiting, born in their palaces all over the world. And in all of the stories, it is hoped that they will find true love, true happiness. And in one story, the story of the princess who knows that she is a princess, it is decreed that that happens when she finds the prince. And that story is so often told that we get confused. We mistake that one story for the story. So let's begin. Once upon a time, in a faraway palace that didn't look much like a palace, our princess was born. Now, she didn't know that she was a princess, and neither did anyone she was born to, but that is more often the case with princesses than is usually reported. If she had known, then things would have been much simpler. But they also would have been much less interesting, and we would hardly have a story to tell you now. You see, when a princess knows that she is a princess, because of simple cues like her mother is called queen or her father is called king, well, there are advantages. But for such a princess, there is only one path: to find a Prince Charming. Whereas for our princess, whether she knew it or not, she was already on the path to becoming a queen. And not a queen by a marriage to a Prince Charming, but a queen who sits upon a throne all her own. Now that is a path with several more tasks than one. Our princess is a little red-haired girl called Jenny MacDonald with a small d. That is very important. I live on Whitney Avenue and I go to Whitney School. In my city, there are a lot of things called Whitney because there was a premier of Ontario whose name was Whitney. And I live in Ontario, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, with a small d. That is very important. When Jenny was born, there were 2 boys and 2 girls already in her family. The boys were tall, handsome, and athletic. The girls were skinny, sweet, and well-liked. It was very well balanced. There was a boys' room and there was a girls' room, and there was no more room in there. So Jenny's room was a converted closet with a large mirror on one wall. From their mother's parents, the children had received a little silver cup, and from their father's parents, a little Scottish cottage that played Auld Lang Syne when you picked up the roof. But for a 5th child, there were no more silver cups and no more Scottish cottages. There was one great-grandmother who traveled to see the new girl. "Oh, look at her beautiful red hair," she said. "She looks just like me when I was a child. I fear I won't see her 7th birthday, but when it arrives, give her this little mirror and tell her it is from her great-grandmother, Mary." I have 3 favorite things. Number 1 is my bear. He is called Sofa Bear because my mom made him from the cover of the upstairs sofa. Number 2 are my books. And number 3 is my little mirror. It's a talking mirror, and I always look really nice in it. My 3 least favorite things. Number 1 is the boy across the street, but he is not exactly a thing, he is a person. But when he calls me fat, that is kind of a thing, and I don't like it. Number 2 is when people don't read stories properly. Like sometimes my dad says, "Cinderella, a toast with Nutella," and she didn't. They didn't even have Nutella where she lived. And number 3 is the mirror in my room, because it's always staring at me. And so the little girl began to grow. Jenny was a shy and contemplative child, and her family liked to joke. She was a pensive child, and her family wanted to play competitive sports all the time. So she often felt a little left out and a little misunderstood. And she sometimes wondered if she hadn't somehow turned up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mrs. Falcone is our teacher, and she is actually the best teacher in the world. She really likes me too. She says that I am very ambitious. She says that because I want to be a lot of things when I grow up. Like I'm going to be the first woman to land on the moon, and then a concert pianist, and then a ballet dancer, and then if I have time after that, I'm going to learn figure skating and go to the Olympics. Mrs. Falcone was also really nice the day that I was late, the day that I was really late, because that was the day that my legs stopped working. I was standing still for so long when he told me to count backwards, to close my eyes, and to count backwards. to start at 50 and to count backwards. And then when I went to run, my legs didn't work. And it wasn't just my snowsuit. It was really heavy, but it was more like the air was snow, and the sky was snow, and the ground was snow. Like I was stuck in a big snowdrift, and I couldn't move. But I must have moved because I got there to the school, but then my voice didn't work either. It was like when you stay on the skating rink too long and then your feet are all kind of tingling and fiery. It was like a fire inside my throat. So every time I tried to open my mouth, there was no sound. There was just, you don't need to tell them about that. So Mrs. Falcone is the best teacher, but the best class is magic. And it only happens at the extra school on Saturdays. And the best magician in the whole class is called Chris. He can turn anything into anything. Well, she will go on to have many other adventures at primary school, but we are going to skip ahead a little in the story now. But I can tell you that she goes to high school, where she will have a confrontation with cheerleading, and that will lead to an awareness of some pursuits most unprincessly. She will also go to university, where she will deepen her knowledge. And where she will fall in love. And also fall out of love. She will go to Europe, and she will have many adventures, and she will work very, very hard. And she will fall in love again. And that love, too, will end. And when it does, she will feel very sad and very lost. And she will start running, trying to move very fast and to avoid certain questions, until she crashes into a third love, a relationship that is not really love, but is actually about power, control, coercion. And we will pick the story up there as she tries to find her way out of that situation. And what happened next? I can't remember. I think you do remember. I think you need to remember. It's harder to remember when something doesn't make sense. You should ask your friends. They'll remember. I haven't seen my friends in a while. You should ask your family. They'll remember. I didn't tell them. What? Anything? About him? About him moving in? Because I shouldn't have opened the door. I shouldn't have gone inside. You mean you shouldn't have let him in? No, I shouldn't have gone inside. Because we watch these movies in school And they said that people will try to trick you and they'll tell you about their cat. So I knew, and I still went inside. That story. You were only 8. But the school principal called, and he said that I was a good girl, and I did the right thing. And why did the school principal say that? Because I didn't have the words for all the body parts, so I would have had to say rude words. I couldn't do that. He was the school principal. Sorry, I think you're mixing up the stories. Let's take one thing at a time. Are you holding your breath? Why? It's a secret. It's our secret. If I breathe, there are going to be a lot of words. It's a secret. Are you sure? No, it's not exactly a secret. Then try to breathe. What happens after breathing? One step at a time. There was this huge wall. I didn't think that I could get over it, especially in my snowsuit. But then, when I went to jump, it was like I was flying. I leaned back, and then I kind of hurled myself at it, and then I clawed, and I scrambled, and where the wood planks were frayed, pieces went into my hands and into my face. Still a scar, where a piece went deep. But I got over it. That wall was so big, and I was so little, and I got over it. Yeah, you did. And then I ran so fast. I will never forget what that felt like, that first run for my life. To really feel how much I wanted to be here. So you were a brave, powerful child. I can tell him to go. And she did. And he did. And that begins a process of integration and acceptance in which the objects that represent the stories from her life are pieced together to create a throne on which she can take her rightful seat. And in that sense, the performance becomes an act of coronation. And in that act of coronation, the audience are crucial witnesses. So we would like to now conclude the performative aspect of the evening. And thank you so much for your kind attention. And I'm going to ask you now to consider how you feel and to perhaps give that a word or a phrase. And when you're ready, if you could type that into the chat. And what we're going to do is we'll wait till everyone who wishes to has had a chance to do that. And then I'll say send, and then everybody will send together and we get a kind of a chat waterfall. So we'll see all the different feelings at once. So just take a moment to just check in with yourself and with how you feel right now. And I'll just keep an eye to see when it looks like people may have written